Tonight on the Black Channel. Well, you know, there were folks out there who figured that they were going to pitch their tents under the white supremacist banner. They figured their corner of it, that they were very slick and very sly and maneuvering themselves into a position of authority. And yeah, they're just finding out, no, you were just going to be the last ones put on the train there. Now, I want to go over an article here that came out from The Atlantic. This article is not honest. Let me just start that before I say anything else. This article is acknowledging something, so the background of the writer obviously apparently plays a part in it because they're not being honest about it. But this is the particular article here on your screens. MAGA's Jewish intellectuals helped create their own predicament. So the writer of the article says this, makes it seem like it's going to go in one direction, and it really doesn't. By the way, the author of the article is Mr. Franklin Foer, so you can go check them out if you want to there. Subheadline, the nascent effort to contain the spread of anti-Semitism is years overdue. Okay. How about containing white supremacy, Mr. Foer? Let's see if he says even a syllable about that. Because we all know Ben Shapiro's real claim to fame. Says here that at a Turning Point USA conference in December, the podcaster Ben Shapiro delivered a speech that was hailed as the sort of moral stand one rarely encounters in the age of polarization. Confronting the right's surging anti-Semitism, he denounced two of its most popular peddlers, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, by name. Well, that's very interesting because Ben Shapiro is a card-carrying white supremacist Jewish fascist who has supported the murder, maiming, killing, oppression of black people at literally every single turn. And yet, amazingly, the author of this article did not see fit to mention any of that. That's a rather curious omission, isn't it? Speaking at a Heritage Foundation event the day before, Shapiro had called for, quote, ideological border control, a purge of the haters from the movement. Well, he can't be serious about that because if you get rid of the haters in MAGA, you'd have to start with Ben. You'd have to start with him. Once again, the author of the article, this is very weird. You haven't said anything about that yet? Ben Shapiro's not one of the good guys. Ben Shapiro is one of the chief villains and one of the chief white supremacist poster boys. So if y'all want to know why the old media is dead, this is why. He goes on to say it was a brave foray into intramural politics, but also a damning self-indictment. Not so many years ago, Shapiro was guilty of the very thing he now decries. Oh, good. I'm sure you're about to talk about his anti-black racism and hatred. I'm sure you're about to go ahead and get into that, right? He goes on to say the Daily Wire, of which he is a co-founder and part owner, hired Owens in 2020. Even before she arrived, there were signs of where she was headed. Quote, if Hitler had just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine, she had told a crowd in London. Shapiro's company ignored that and subsequent warnings. When Kanye West went on an anti-Semitic tear in 2022, Owens rushed to his defense. Quote, it's like you can't even say the word Jewish without people getting upset. Okay, so far, not a word about Ben Shapiro's white supremacy and anti-black hatred. He is a card-carrying anti-black bigot and has been his entire life, and yet The Atlantic has yet to say a word about it, only about what would offend white supremacists who identify as Jewish. Just, if you want to know why the old media is dead, and yes, I'll have some more comments to make about that shortly. That incident was the moment for border control Shapiro refused. We allow disagreement at the Daily Wire, he said, even when I think that some of my colleagues are wrong. No wonder anti-Semitism crept toward the movement's mainstream, as if the Daily Wire was single-handedly the gatekeeper. For a time, it was possible for the Jewish intellectuals of MAGA, a small but influential set of podcasters, columnists, and theorists, to minimize anti-Semitism in the movement. But it's now so ubiquitous and so noxious that even they can't ignore it. Joel Pollack, the former editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, wrote on X in December that until a few months before, he would have happily sent his children to a Turning Point USA event. Not anymore. Quote, now, why would I send them to one more place where Jewish kids have to defend who they are and what they believe? Meanwhile, you all have been enabling white supremacist bigots, the Dave Rubins, the Ben Shapiros, the Jewish white supremacists have been attacking black folk all over the place. The writer of the article has yet to say a word. But Pollack, Shapiro, and others were delusional in denying the problem for so long. They built careers inside the movement animated by fantasies about globalists, in quotations, suspicions of hidden hands, and a yearning for national purity. Actually, the Epstein files have absolutely incontrovertibly proven that there are plenty of hidden hands. So, yeah, that's you. All I can say is you debunk yourself and destroy your own credibility when you still try to say, oh, ain't no hidden hands out there. I mean, all these folk behind it, ain't no conspiracies. Okay, you're not going to get anywhere with that. An ideological combination that has never been particularly healthy for Jews. They lent their prestige to it anyway, certain that the hateful rhetoric was meant for someone else. Yes, black people. Now that it has landed directly on them, they want credit for noticing the stench. No case is sadder than the Israeli-American political theorist Yoram Hazony, a Princeton and Rutgers graduate who ran a conservative think tank in Jerusalem, but saw Trump and the American right's bubbling hostility toward classical liberalism as his chance to break out on a larger stage, which is the point we always made. These Jewish supremacists wanted to rely on being white when they thought that it would get them some sort of goodies or benefits. They thought that would work out for them. They thought that they were being very slick and very sly, jockeying for position. Remember, in white supremacy, the only real fight they have over who is going to get the biggest slice of the cake. And so people are constantly jockeying for position to get themselves in position where they can dictate that they should get a bigger slice. So yes, everyone signs on to white supremacy, white nationalism, white bigotry. Oh, they're all in favor of it when they think it's going to increase the slice of the pie and the slice of the white supremacist cake that they're going to get. Just as soon as the Anglos let you know that all white, we're all created white, but some whites are more equal than others, then the wannabe Anglos start yelling and complaining. To which I say, no, let the dogs have them. In 2018, Yoram Hazony published The Virtue of Nationalism, not a flame-throwing manifesto so much as a homely defense of nationalism as the natural way to organize a polity, an argument he traced back to biblical times. This is one of these things you see with the Jewish supremacists and stuff, whether it's in Israel or in America. They always claim that the Bible is their authority on these things and that the Bible gives them all these rights and all these privileges and so on and so forth. Now they've taken it to the Anglos, and the Anglos are like, yeah, we're good. Hazony didn't just write about the revolt against liberalism. He became one of its leading impresarios. He convened regular gatherings of what he called the National Conservatives, a melange of theocrats and populists, and grasped for a new coalition that might provide the bedrock ideology of right-wing political parties throughout the Western world. Rising Republican politicians, including J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, headlined these conferences, which for several years were the hottest tickets on the right. So basically, this is like the WWE for ugly people. Under the National Conservative banner, the right was swerving from classical liberalism to nationalism, away from the most American of American ideas, that the United States is held together by a creed rather than a bloodline. Ben Shapiro has never thought that. Where black people are concerned, he's made it very clear that black people are the social and genetic enemy. And for the writer of this article to ignore that is a hate crime. But I digress. Really, I don't. He goes on to say Hosni's movement didn't merely sneer at wokeness, it sneered at the pluralist project, articulated movingly by George Washington himself, that enabled Jews to flourish in the U.S. in the first place. Say what you will about the Enlightenment, at least it emancipated Jews. While Hosni projected a mild image, his conferences were bombastic. When my colleague David Brooks attended one in 2021, he walked away gobsmacked by the, quote, callousness, invocations of combat, and whiffs of brutality. His dispatch from the conference was titled, "The Terrifying Future of the American Right." Well, that aged rather well. Jewish history supplied a pretty good preview of what the terrifying future might look like. 4 years after Brooks attended Hosni's conference, it has unmistakably arrived. Each week brings a new instance of anti-Semitism moving from the internet's febrile periphery into the conservative movement's mainstream. A leaked text chain from the New York Young Republicans included the line, quote, "Great, I love Hitler." Tucker Carlson, arguably the movement's most popular personality, hosted Holocaust deniers on his show. Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation, rose to Carlson's defense by dismissing the host's critics as a venomous coalition, language that echoed old insinuations about a Jewish cabal pulling the strings. Roberts eventually apologized. Now, you notice the writer of this article mentioned about the New York Young Republicans, but the biggest thing there was their anti-black racism. And the writer of this article, attempting to play that thing, we'll throw our Jewish card out there and we're going to wave it furiously and say, hey, we need people to honor our white Jewish card. And what you end up doing is exposing your anti-black racism in the process. If you are a Jewish person, regardless of that, you cannot say the name Ben Shapiro without acknowledging his anti-black racism and bigotry. That is the biggest hallmark and the most notorious thing that he is known for is his racism and bigotry. So when you attempt this pathetic attempt to write an article and you're going to try to make it about anti-Semitism and the person that you've chosen is one of the biggest bigots walking on American soil, he is an American Jewish Nazi. You just basically destroy your own point. This idea that you're going to rally everybody around defending just you and that they're going to dismiss when members of your obviously you are defending him by omission, defending members of your group who are going around being the biggest bigots on the planet. Just understand this might do great things for you personally, but this doesn't travel any further than outside of your front door. You're not gaining any converts and you're not getting anybody else saying, well, you know what? Why don't we go ahead and join it with these folk over here? It's like, no, all we're reminding you of is that you are curiously absent. You think now you want to whine about white supremacy when you are refusing to call out one of the biggest white supremacists in America. Why? Because he's Jewish like you? Now it looks like you're both the bigots. When Hosni convened the National Conservatives in September, he felt obliged to address the matter of surging anti-Semitism. He told the crowd that he'd been, quote, pretty amazed by the depths of the slander of Jews as a people online. Then he made what would surely count as one of the most naive statements ever offered at a political conference, at least if it could be judged sincere. Quote, I didn't think it would happen on the right, he said. I was mistaken. But contained in his speech were clues that perhaps he wasn't as surprised as he claimed to be. For years, he said, he had defended his comrades against accusations of anti-Semitism. Quote, it makes you really popular, he said. Everybody is really grateful. I'm the guy who defended them against absolutely false, ridiculous accusations of anti-Semitism. What did this long history of loyalty buy MAGA's Jewish intellectuals? Several days after Shapiro addressed the Turning Point USA conference, J.D. Vance took the same stage. Because of all the attention Shapiro's speech had received, Vance was compelled to address his concerns. But when the time came to evict Holocaust deniers and conspiracists from the movement, Vance chose a different path. He rejected purity tests, telling the crowd, quote, I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform. Vance spectacularly failed Shapiro's moral test. Shapiro is the most immoral, animalistic monstrosity in the room. So, no, this actually is perfectly in line with Ben Shapiro's morality. As a matter of fact, this is far above Ben Shapiro's morality. He goes on to say, and yet Shapiro said nothing critical in response. Well, of course not. They didn't condemn Elon Musk. Remember last year, Elon Musk was making his jokes about being Jewish, the ADL and all the rest of the Jews on board who were getting their money under the table. Remember, they didn't say a word to condemn Musk. So no. It's only powerless white people that they'll say something about. The white folk who have power and authority over them, oh, they're going to get real quiet real quick. So this is not new. It's not new. Shapiro said nothing critical in response. He stayed silent and evidently chose to preserve his relationship with the Republican Party's heir apparent. In other words, Shapiro failed the moral test he himself wrote. And the writer of this article is failing it also. Despite all their belly aching, the Jewish intellectuals of MAGA still hesitate to wage civil war or break ranks. After wringing his hands about anti-Semitism on the right, Hosni turned around and defended Roberts as he was besieged by accusations of anti-Semitism. Quote, I'll never forget how the jackals circled, sniveling for blood, Hosni said. Sniveling is an interesting choice of words, given all the feeble excuses that Hosni has made for his allies. So that was the entire article from The Atlantic by Franklin Foer. That was the best that he could do. I'd like to send this message out here because I have a rather large audience. And because of that, I want to take a moment here to really highlight something right now and to really promote this. So I would like all of our Jewish friends out there to understand something. This game that has been played by certain segments of Jewish society that they're going to practice white supremacy, that they're going to target black people, that whether your perspective is the goyim or whatever you want to put in there, that this idea that you're going to do that and that you are going to escape unscathed because you are just so slick and you are just so cunning and you are just so silver-tongued that you are going to play this game where when you're among black people, you're going to get a handshake because your memories only go as far as the civil rights generation. See, the civil rights generation tolerated that with grace. The civil rights generation tolerated Jewish white supremacy with grace the way they tolerated Anglo-white supremacy. And the problem is the civil rights generation is no longer in charge. The civil rights generation no longer sets the tone. And we, the children and grandchildren of the World War II and civil rights generations, we're not turning a blind eye to that anymore. The response is not going to be, well, they don't really mean it like that anymore. The response will not be that we're going to look for the exception to the rule and say, well, that doesn't matter. No, there are too many Ben Shapiros out there. Here's the issue. The issue is there are way too many Ben Shapiros out there, and we can't really find anybody in Jewish society taking those to task. That's where things get to be very perilous. Ben Shapiro is a naked, card-carrying, white supremacist, anti-black bigot. He has been since the very beginning. He is one of the most noxious, monstrous, evil individuals walking American soil. If hate crimes were criminal, he'd already be doing a life sentence. He is a Joseph Goebbels who attempts to intellectualize white supremacy and Jewish Nazism against black people. He's made an entire career out of it. His statements have been horrendous. He has defended every single act of barbarism, violence, and brutality against black people, both as individuals and as a group. And as a result of that, we shouldn't have to say anything. There's the point that I've always made. We should not have to say anything. There should be a phalanx of Jewish people speaking up and condemning him without us having to say a word. The problem that we have is, by the way, they've been curiously silent. So this idea that you're going to ignore that, I cannot look at you ignoring that and not come to the conclusion that you are part and party and part and parcel to his anti-black bigotry. This is not about being open-minded, or if it is that Trayvon Martin was somehow the violent aggressor to George Zimmerman with a gun, and that Ashley Babbitt is an innocent victim while she was storming the Capitol doors. No, these things have not gone unnoticed. And we recognize what's going on here. We recognize what the game is. What has happened here is that there have been there's a group of very well-financed Jewish individuals, and that's all great and wonderful and fine. However, they've told themselves that they are going to take over the national dialogue, and they're going to hijack the national conversation. They're going to create media outlets, and if they can't create them, they'll see if they can buy them, and then walk in with this very sloppy, very heavy-handed, strategy that we're going to turn this into a pro-Jewish outlet. You can't tell people that there's not a conspiracy. You can't tell people that Jews control the media, it's a lie that Jews control the media, and then they go by TikTok and CBS, and then they tell you, okay, you can't say anything negative about Jewish people. It's like, excuse me. Yeah, that's not how you convince people that you're not controlling the media. That's not the way to do it. If you want to convince people that you're not controlling the media, let me make a suggestion. Don't buy the media outlets and then tell people that you're turning it into a pro-Jewish mouthpiece. How about that one? And when you go as far as they've gone now, it's just like, okay, you can jump out there and talk about old stereotypes and tropes all you want to. The problem is Larry Ellison and Barry Weiss are sitting up here proving it in real time. You need to go deal with them if you don't want folk to believe that. What do you do when you can't propagandize effectively anymore? What do you do when your arguments don't work anymore? What do you do when everybody sees what's happening and you can't bury it anymore? Well, you go buy the outlets and then you try to silence people. And the issue would be, it would be different if you could move slowly. If you could move slowly and silently, if you had people who were not really self-professed and self-proclaimed Zionists or Israelis or whatever, it would go a lot easier for you to sneak your way in and take over these outlets. It would be easier to do that, but you've moved so quickly, so blatantly, so belligerently, so bullishly. You've moved in so recklessly that you didn't even attempt to hide it. So when people come out and say something now, the problem is everybody sees what you did. All that money that you got, all that Israeli money doesn't do you any good when everyone can see what you're doing. That's the issue. All that money doesn't do you any good when everyone can see you. You see, if there was ambiguity and people were uncertain and they didn't know who it was and they didn't know who was buying this and they don't know why the news they're listening to is starting to sound funny and why TikTok videos, why the algorithm is blocking stuff all of a sudden, it would be different if nobody saw it. But forget about it, man. Telling people that they have this mountain of data and then you say, you call that evidence? You're not going to bully people into silence. All you're doing now is telling people that you're insulting their intelligence. All you're doing now is insulting people's intelligence. You're not making them cower into silence. You're just insulting their intelligence now. If you want to deal with this, let me give you a few hints. Don't have card-carrying Jewish Nazi white supremacist bigots like Ben Shapiro on your team. Damn! There's the first hint and piece of advice I can offer you. If the people who are claiming that there's anti-Semitism going on, if you want that message to get through clearly, you are first going to have to purge yourselves. You are first going to have to purge yourselves, Mr. Foer. You're going to have to purge yourselves of your anti-black Nazi racists within Jewish intellectual circles, Jewish social circles, Jewish economic circles. You're going to have to purge yourselves of your Jewish white supremacists and Jewish Nazis. You're going to have to do that. You don't have any moral authority. All you can do is write articles and hope that it's going to sway some lame brain people. But if you don't ever have the ability to travel outside of your own little limited echo chamber circles into the society at large, you see, if you don't take the message out there, you can't rise. You can't rise. You can't make this work. All you're doing is talking to other Jewish people. You're going to have to come outside of those circles and talk to the rest of Gentile society. You're going to have to do that. But if you are still holding hands with your white supremacist Jewish brethren, then you become the white supremacist Jewish person also. And now both of you are invalidated. So the first order of business is if you want to know why it is that you running around yelling anti-Semitism is falling on deaf ears, is because you've been the biggest bigots in the room. Now you're upset that the Anglos are like, okay, we don't really need you anymore. Now you're upset about that. No. You're going to have to confront your white supremacy. You're going to have to confront that. And you're going to have to excommunicate and outcast all of the Jewish white supremacists in your group. And if that includes yourself, then that includes you too. But just understand that as long as you keep holding on to either this ideology or these people, then you're never going to gain any traction. It won't work. Let me go ahead and remind you of a few things here, Mr. Foer. Let me remind you of a few things here, sir. You see, back during antebellum slavery, yes, I'm going to go there. Back during antebellum slavery, there were a number of Jewish individuals who made a lot of money off the slave trade on both sides of the Atlantic. You all can go look at that if you want to there. Black folk, as a general rule, didn't make a great, big, huge stink about that because rightfully so, we group all the white supremacists together. But just like Dinesh D'Souza and just like Latinos for Trump, when the Jewish faction of white supremacy starts squealing because the Aryan faction of white supremacy starts putting boots to necks and boots to asses, it's like, okay, you don't get to cry and complain when you fed this monster. You don't get to cry and whine now. You want to be lumped in with them. We're going to leave you lumped in with them. You thought being lumped in with them would give you power. Now you see that being lumped in with you has just made you another victim. No, you got to stay over there and get that work. You do not get to yell that white supremacy is a problem now. You thought white supremacy was great when you could get some benefits. Why, you were the chief proponents at the front of the line saying, hey, we can be nastier white supremacists than the Aryans. Now you want to be upset because your Aryan buddies are putting boots to asses on you, and you don't get to be upset now. There's nobody to listen. You see, back during antebellum slavery, you could have done things a bit differently. That did not happen. And then what happened is, as America began balkanizing even more, a large segment of Jewish society found itself being highlighted. That's what occurred. A large segment of Jewish society found itself being highlighted. This eventually results in the formation of the ADL, which was formed to attempt to defend a Jewish man who had been running around apparently raping women, and tried to blame it on a black man. And it was so outrageous that they didn't even, law enforcement was like, yeah, no, it was you. So that's their origins there. That's their origins. Okay, well, you want folk to ignore that, and it's like, not really. Not really. And by the time that we get to the civil rights movement there had been a substantial number of Jewish people that the society was acknowledging and recognizing and identifying and balkanizing against. So this is why we ended up with a number of Jewish people who, when we got the ball rolling at serious momentum, next thing we know, we had people piggybacking off the movement. Next thing we know, at a bunch of people who had promoted white supremacy and had enabled it up to that point, once they started losing their end, then all of a sudden they became the biggest cheerleaders for quote unquote black folk and civil rights. When in reality, they were pushing an agenda. They didn't have enough numbers or enough clout or enough credibility. That last one was the real issue. You were the chief proponents pushing white supremacy. Now you're complaining about it. You ain't got a leg to stand on to complain. You don't have a leg to stand on to complain. So you had to get behind somebody who did. They had to rally behind a group that actually had not sold themselves out and had not sacrificed their integrity and had not hoarded away their credibility. We were the only thing you could roll with. They could not do this on their own. They were too much of a known quantity among white supremacist circles. So that was why all of a sudden they became the biggest proponents and the biggest supporters of the quote civil rights movement, because there was a specific goal they were trying to get for themselves and they were unable to secure it on their own. They had lost their in among whiteness and they were unable to secure that by themselves. All the lawyers and all the legal professionals and all the professors, and it meant nothing. We were the only ones who were able to establish enough momentum to get the national conversation to change. We were the only ones who had clear legitimacy, and so everyone piggybacks off of us. So here came the Jewish circles, here came LGBT, here came the white feminists. All these other folk bum rushed the door when they saw us put the battering ram to it and break it down. All these other groups started bum rushing the door. All these other groups who had been supporting white supremacy. Ain't that right, Susan B. Anthony? What? Damn! For the white feminists. Ain't that right, Susan B. Anthony? Ain't that right, Margaret Sanger? Never forget that, people. Never forget those people. Never forget those names. Never forget that the causes that they promoted, they seemed to be about one thing, but the roots always came back to white supremacy. All these people were doing was fighting to improve their position within the white supremacist hierarchy. Do you see how I brought that 720 degrees? We end up right back where you started. Yes, this is what all these groups have been trying to do. They have not been fighting white supremacy. They've been looking to improve their position in it. And even when it seemed that they were quote unquote supporting quote us, in reality, this was yet another strategy to improve their position within white supremacy. They were not attempting to destroy white supremacy, simply to improve their position in it. And I submit to you that the social status that is going on in America right now, Donald Trump's presence in the White House, is your proof. None of these groups were ever committed to destroying white supremacy. We were trying to destroy white supremacy. They were trying to humble white supremacy so that they could improve their position in it. But they did not want to destroy it, not at all. So that's how we ended up with a bunch of folks sitting up here hanging on to us, tethering, if you will, piggybacking off of our movement in order that they could galvanize support for themselves, or at the very least, they could improve their position while making it seem like it was us doing it, which it was. And that's how they got there. Well, just like with everyone else, the moment that white supremacy starts easing the boot off their necks, well, what do you know? They all start flipping back to supporting white supremacy again. And I submit once again here, we can go down a very long, very ugly list here. We can go down a very long, very ugly list. Nobody's doing anything about Ed Blum. Nobody's doing anything about him. Nobody's doing anything about Ben Shapiro. We don't have any Jewish support to deal with that. I've talked about this now for years that, by the way, couldn't help but notice we had a whole bunch of Jewish quote unquote support in the 1960s when they had something that they wanted. Couldn't help but notice we don't have, that Jewish legal infrastructure. We don't have that doing anything about Ed Blum. Just couldn't notice we don't have that. And we're looking around asking, by the way, where'd they go? Where did they go? Because, yeah, we were, okay, hey, there's some things happening over here and we don't see where's our Jewish backup? Where's our Jewish support? My point is, we shouldn't have to say anything. We shouldn't have to say anything. We shouldn't have to do anything. That should be a given. And yet it's not. Can't find Michael Rappaport. Every time that folks show up, they show up for what they want. And I'm like, by the way, then you got folk practicing anti-black racism and coming up to the Supreme Court, and we don't have any backup. It's just us. If you can get anybody on our side to be competent for it. When we look around, we say, hey, y'all are on the other side over there with the white supremacists. Now, that's something that simply should not be occurring. And yet, there it is. So if individuals like Mr. Foer are upset and unhappy, you're trying to sit up here and sell this con job that the nation needs to stop and be concerned about quote unquote anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, I read your article and I proved to folks how you are practicing white supremacy and anti-black racism and bigotry. I showed that because this article should have been a rundown of all of Ben Shapiro's racism. And yet it wasn't. So this idea that you're going to shame people into overlooking your racism and what y'all really need to do is support Jewish interests here and anti-Semitism, y'all really need to fight that. You're not going to get that until you get on the right foot. That's not going to happen. Because you don't have a righteous cause to promote. You just have a political agenda. and it's too nakedly obvious. So you're not going to get anywhere. This isn't going to work. All you're going to do is increase Candace Owens' audience. Let me give you a couple of tips here, fellas. If you want your anti-Semitism approach argument to work, first and foremost, stop telling people they don't see what they see. Stop telling people that Jeffrey Epstein is a figment of their imaginations. That's a small one right there. Stop denying Jeffrey Epstein. Let's start right there. See, there's a whole bunch of things right there that what happens is you get off into breathing your own air for so long that you start telling yourself that any nonsense or garbage you say, everybody gonna roll with it. That's that Jewish. When you start acting like that, now you're acting like a Jewish supremacist. I'm just supreme and I'm Jewish and I say so, and y'all just gonna roll with it. And no, that's not the way that's gonna work. See, the reason why Dinesh D'Souza and Vivek Ramaswamy can't get this thing to work for them is because they spent all their time enabling white supremacy. You can't spin on a dime and say, wait a minute, white supremacy is wrong. And worse, they don't have any black people. The only legitimate grievance that you can point to, none of us are going to back them up either. So you just get left twisting in the wind. You better take a look over there at Indian society and see how that's blown up in their faces. They were sitting around waiting for white backup. Let me know when the white backup shows up, anybody. So far, can't find it. So far, can't find it. And so if you think you're going to camouflage and if you think you're going to masquerade and get people to ignore this, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're too nakedly obvious with it. And your refusal to purge these people from your ranks, that's what's holding you down. This delusion that you're going to sneak in some Jewish supremacy and everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, that was what we were missing. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not what we were looking for here. That's not what we were looking for. A lot of folks out there think that they were going to fix the race, if you will. Oh, don't worry. We're smart enough to get that done. We're smart enough to get that done. Well, it's not working. You know why it's not working? Because you haven't had anybody who sat up here and they haven't actually had to talk to anybody else. That's the problem. They haven't had to actually talk to anybody else. By the way, my mods are doing some crackhead stuff here, so I'm going to have to get some things straightened out. So just understand, folks, my mods they've been hitting the pipe this weekend a little bit here.
You smoke crack, don't you? You smoke crack, don't you? Look at me, boy. Don't you smoke crack?
Yeah, yes, sir.
You know what that does to you?
It messes up the chat room is what it does. So, like I say, my mods been hitting the pipe here a little bit, so I'm going to have to put them through rehab here in just a moment. But in any case, what they were thinking they were doing here was they were thinking they were going to be slick enough. And the reason why they're not able to make that happen is because they haven't gotten out of their little echo chamber. They haven't gotten out of their little echo chamber. They haven't gotten out there to go talk to the real damn world. You see, what they were telling themselves is that there are enough racist white folk, there's enough of them available that you ain't got to worry about anything else. That's what they were telling themselves. And we're going to go ahead and steamroll everybody and it's going to be okay. That's what they told themselves. And the issue is what would have been smart it would have been far smarter for them to talk to some contrarian voices. What they thought they were going to do is they thought they were going to gather together all the like-minded voices and stuff, and it was going to be like a social media, like on YouTube where you get together with other creators and, you increase your audiences and you gain synergy. They thought that was what was going to happen. They thought that was what was going to occur. And what they realized there is that, no, that's not what happened. That's what they realized. They found out here that the only thing it would do is that was all. That was it. It didn't that didn't really help anything because the audience didn't respect you anymore. That's where you messed up at. Your audience didn't respect you anymore. Yeah, you were a little bit entertaining, but right below the surface, it's like, it didn't change where your standing was. It didn't change your standing. You see, Nick Fuentes is not the problem. Nick Fuentes is not the problem. Nick Fuentes is not the issue. The issue is you are doing a pathetic job of refuting Nick Fuentes' points. That's the problem. If Nick Fuentes is wrong, it should be very easy to disprove it. The problem is that everyone is trying to figure out how they can promote and push their own barbaric white supremacy, or in this case, Jewish white supremacy, and just get everybody to be okay with it. Let me give you a hint. When people bring up the USS Liberty and how Israel killed a bunch of American soldiers and blew up the boat, Ben Shapiro telling folk, why does that matter? And that's just old news there. Why does that occur? Let me explain to you all what it is. Let me explain to you why he would say something that stupid and why there would be others behind him thinking that that was a smart thing to do. You got to understand, they're Israeli first. They're not America first. They're Israeli first. They got dual citizenship. They got 3 or 4 passports. So just like the Anglo white supremacists, the Jewish white supremacists think that everybody is like them. That's what they think. They think everybody is like them. There's the problem. And when you sit there listening to a bunch of folks out there who don't know any better, that's going to be an issue. Everybody here they're not Israelis in training. American society doesn't want to be that. They're not secretly envious. They're not secretly desirous. No disrespect. Israel's never going to be the kick it spot. It's just not going to be. So this idea that in your heads there's something you're trying to promote, so now you feed yourself the delusion that everybody secretly loves us. This is what the white supremacists do. When I talked to Jared Taylor, he was saying the same garbage. Jared Taylor said the same mess. The absolute lunacy they feed themselves is that everybody secretly loves them and that everyone secretly loves white supremacy. That people are just a little offended at having to admit how great white supremacy is. That's Jared. If you all want to know why it is that Jared Taylor says the stuff he says, for those of you who had my race war documentary, the extended edition, you heard them say they think that everybody really believes that white supremacy is so great. That we really think white supremacy is groovy, but that it's just not popular for us to say it, quote unquote, amongst our group. So we're kind of offended at it, but in reality, the real truth is we really actually admire white supremacy. We really actually like it. No, this is what they tell themselves. No, this is literally what they said. This is literally what they believe. This is literally what they tell themselves. Is that, yeah, you all really like white supremacy. You really admire it. You know, when we black out your images and blot out and white women being the beauty standards and stuff, you really like that. The truth of the matter is you really like that and you really admire it. That's really cool. You're just too scared to admit you really like it. This is literally, seriously, what they think. Well, Ben Shapiro is the Jewish white supremacist flip side of that coin. He thinks that most people really do wish they were Jewish or really do admire that, and they just, you really wish you were, and you really wish we were running things, and that's what he tells himself. These folks out here, this is why you have these two corrupted, sick ideologies vying against each other with the idea that, all of you really do envy us, and you're just jealous, and you really do wish you were, and you really do want us running things. That's what they think. That's why they act the way that they do. This is what they tell themselves to rationalize it to themselves. And then when they see you sit up here and push it back and smack them in the face with it, then they just say, just sour grapes. So please understand that's the root of their rationale. So Ben really, that's the reason why they don't want to talk to anybody else, because the real problem is the worst thing that could happen is they end up in a situation where they have to directly defend this garbage. When Ben says his most ridiculous stuff, he's by himself. He doesn't get out. When he's in front of an audience, all of a sudden it's America first. When he's by himself, all of a sudden it's Israel first. And the real problem here is that, dude, you all are putting this on the internet. You're putting it on international television. This is not the move. This is not the move. Everyone sees what you're saying. Everyone sees what you're doing. You're not gaining any converts. The more you say this, the worse it gets. And what's eventually going to end up happening is you're going to see the American body politic move to just divest itself from Israel altogether. So in reality, they're hastening their worst nightmare, is what they're really going to end up with here. And all the arguments that Ben Shapiro was using, because understand something, you can't complain about Candace Owens today, Benny the bigot. You can't complain about her. You're the one who recruited her. You're the one who paid her. You're the one who weaned her. You're the one who promoted her because she was your black face of white supremacy. You see, when Candace Owens was going around with her, now this isn't conspiracy theory. This is just outright lies. The Trayvon conspiracy, or the Trayvon hoax. Now, when Candace Owens was putting out this garbage, the Trayvon hoax, why, Ben Shapiro sat there with his little devious eyebrows, and he thought that was great. And when Candace Owens was defending Daniel Holtzclaw, a police officer who had been arrested, tried, and convicted of raping primarily a bunch of black women, well, when she said she wants to bail him out of jail and get him exonerated, Ben Shapiro was right on board with that. Ben Shapiro was right there, pom-pom swinging. He was perfectly fine with, he was defending that too. He was right there with her, saying how great that was. He didn't condemn anything. Why, that didn't affect her standing at his little garage band company. That didn't affect anything. These were not just conspiracy theories. These were outright delusional lies. Now, the stuff that she's been saying about Ben Shapiro and Israel, now that's not really lying. Actually, that part right there is not made up. In reality, that's not really made up. The stuff she's saying that you don't like Ben, she's actually got receipts for that. The stuff that she was saying about black folk, there's nothing there, which is why neither you nor anyone else could say anything about it. Please understand, these people have never gone in front of black lawyers to try to debate these things, nor will they ever try. Folks, you will never see Candace Owens demand to be in front of black attorneys or even white ones that know anything about the cases. You will never see her sit in front of any of them. You know what they'll tell you? What they're all they're going to tell you all is that it doesn't matter what the coroner said. What? Their only argument is it doesn't matter what the coroner said. Yeah. The coroner said died of asphyxiation. The coroner said died of strangulation. It doesn't matter what the coroner said. This is literally what they tell you. Literally. And Ben Shapiro sitting right there with him trying to defend Derek Chauvin, whose attorneys were not saying the garbage that Ben Shapiro was saying. You all can go looking at yourselves there. When they were trying to appeal that, they were not arguing those points that Ben Shapiro was talking about. They weren't doing that. The only person saying that was him. Now he wants to be upset because Candace Owens, all of a sudden she's turning her venom toward you. Well, you're the one who raised that viper. You raised it, you fed it, you thought it was great. And even if Mr. Foer is a liar by omission, I'm not going to sit here and lie for you. No, you thought Candace was great doing that. You thought that was wonderful. All right. Well, now Candace is going to just give you the work from here on in. And here's the bigger issue here, people. You see, they tried to create a strategy of a world where truth doesn't matter and facts don't matter. That if you just repeat the big lie, yes, Jewish supremacist Ben Shapiro is a big proponent of the big lie strategy. If you just keep doing that, well, whoever is able to lie the best and fool people the best, well, that's the one who wins. All right. Well, now what he didn't realize is that converting a population to a lie isn't solely dependent on who has the biggest megaphone, people. It isn't about who can say the lie the loudest, not all the time. Sometimes, more often than not, it's about who has a more creative lie. See, Ben Shapiro's not a very bright guy. He's not a very creative person. He's very squeaky and whiny voice, incel to the max, 4'3" tall. And he figures if he tells lies that sound like facts, well, he'll win. And if he has enough money behind him to buy YouTube and buy Facebook off to promote their little channel. Yeah, but the issue is a lie doesn't have to be loudest. It can also be who has the most creative one. Now, that's the part that he wasn't ready for, is who has the most creative one. And Candace Owens right now, just letting y'all know, Candace ain't doing nothing but freestyling. She's just coming off the dome. She is just, making up new bars every week. She has tried to milk this Charlie Kirk thing as far as she could. She's been talking about that now for what? 4 months straight? She's been talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination now for 4 months straight. She is literally accusing or implying something nefarious of literally everybody under the sun. There is no one who is not involved. She's telling you that Charlie Kirk was time traveling, or at least she had a dream he was.
What?
She's telling you that Erica Kirk has something to do with it, though she's not really sure what the something is. It's all right. Folks, I mean, this is a stand-up comedian who has run out of material. There are Egyptian planes, not Israeli planes, Egyptian ones. Remember, she tried to say, first it was that first plane that folk were looking at, and then they had to rule that one out because you could find the damn pilot. So it's like, oh, hell, that doesn't work. So remember, people who want to spin these kind of creative yarns, they have to give you something that you can't verify. Because if you can ever substantiate it and verify it, well, then their little theory, their little agenda, flames out. So they have to find something that nobody is able to verify. No one's able to confirm. And then they say there's something real suspicious about this thing over here that nobody can confirm. And then you can just dump all the credibility or all the suspicion on that thing over there, resting assured that no one will ever be able to confirm or prove that it's false. Oh, there's an army base and we think we saw Erica or Turning Point or all the above sitting there. It's like, really? Really? At what point do you just say, okay, ma'am, you don't have anything, or at least you don't have enough. So thank you for your attempted contribution. We don't need to renew season 2 of the Charlie Kirk Files. We don't have to do that. But you see, there's a bigger issue in there. Because remember what I told you before, she's not relying on facts. She went to the Ben Shapiro School of Propaganda and Lying. So she already knows I don't have to rely on facts if I'm just very creative. If I bring people back and tell them a good story. That's what she's learned. She learned that from Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. She learned that really, really well from Ian Carroll. That's who she's really imitating the most because she's found out that works. I told you all this months and months ago. She's been hanging out with that Ian Carroll dude. I'm like, oh, all she's doing now is learning how to make creative content. It doesn't have to have facts. All it has to have are questions. People, she doesn't actually have any facts. All she has are questions. By definition, you can never answer every question. So what she's going to do is ask you 100 questions. And if you can't answer all 100 questions with documentation and hard copy evidence, she's going to claim that the conspiracy, if you answer 90 of the 100 questions, she's going to claim the conspiracy is in the 10 you didn't answer. It doesn't matter how small or minute those are. You can answer 90 out of 100. She'll just claim the conspiracy is in the 10 that we didn't get an answer to. It doesn't matter how thin they are. It doesn't matter how irrelevant it is. Don't worry. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. You can look that one up for yourselves. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. You just find somebody we can pin this on and don't worry, I'll take care of spinning the story and everything else. And that's what Candace does now. Okay, but you all have enabled her and taught her how to do this now for over a decade. That was what she really learned from all of you white supremacists, both Anglo and Jewish white supremacists. She learned this from you. You all taught her that truth doesn't matter. Just be a good storyteller. Just be a good storyteller and make it seem like you've done some, quote, investigation. That's all you have to do. Come up with your lie and then claim you did some investigation. Oh, we've got paperwork. Just fabricate some kind of, quote, alternative set of facts. And then that's all you have to sell from here on in is your alternative set of facts. Well, Candace has learned. She learned from all of you how to do that. And now she's making a grip doing it. And what you all never imagined, that there was a negress out there who was going to learn how to use your dirty tricks as well as you. And that she wasn't going to run back to black society because she can't. And there are enough people who don't like you that they're a receptive audience to it because, you see, she's useful to them. She is useful to them. Candace Owens was never useful as one of these blacks who hates blacks. She was never useful, but it did allow white supremacists to make her their dirty little secret and their dirty little pleasure, that they would listen to her say the real vile, disgusting, criminal things against black folk. And that was how you all sat here and rationalized it to yourselves and comforted yourselves. Well, now she's the black face of anti-Semitism.
What? Damn!
You taught her how to be the black face of white supremacy. Well, now she's like, you know what? I can make more money being anti-Jewish. I can make more money doing that. See, you all taught her how to be the attack dog, to be that vicarious proxy. You all taught her how to be a tool in a proxy war. Well, now she's using that skill set that you taught her. Now she's using it to be a weapon in the proxy war against you. And it's working. Now, eventually it's going to flame out. Eventually it will. But that's what she's doing. And it's working. You taught her all these dirty tricks, and now it's working. Ben Shapiro's numbers have cratered. Ben Shapiro's numbers have deflated. Candace Owens has taken off. Ben Shapiro has deflated. It ain't looking good over there. And I don't cry when chickens come home to roost. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of happy when chickens come home to roost. Now that they got the chickens pecking their eyes out, I'm just like, I wonder if chickens think you taste like chicken.
What?
Let's be very, very clear here, folks. It's not going to end here. Oh, it's not going to stop here. This is just getting started. This is just getting started. And there will be only one path to salvation. Your pathetic attempts to integrate yourselves into Anglo-white supremacy have met with their predictable, pathetic failure. The only salvation now is you are going to have to purge yourselves of your white supremacist factions within Jewish society. You're going to have to purge yourselves of that. That's the only way forward now. The Anglo-white supremacists have no need nor call for you. That's what's going to have to happen now. Now, there may be a few. There are going to be a few who are going to be smart enough to realize this and say, yeah, let me bail out. But there's a number of them who are thinking that they're slick enough and they're going to convert everybody, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Keep dreaming, but it's not going to occur. And all that whining and complaining that you're doing and whatnot, in case you didn't notice, it's not gaining sympathy. That's not what's happening. You're not getting a bunch of sympathy. You're not getting a bunch of folks saying maybe that they're wrong. No, you were the ones who wanted to make mainstreaming saying the most disgusting, vile, obscene things. Let's be very clear. When you cross the line of saying that Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black child walking down the street with some Skittles and some iced tea, that it's okay for an armed white man to follow him in a car and murder him, you have exited humanity when you do that. You have exited the family of man. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no forgiveness or redemption for you. So just understand that when you popularize saying those kinds of obscenities and those kinds of demonic lies, that you popularize that mentality and that practice of doing that, just understand the day is going to come when they come for you. And when they do, it won't matter what reality is. It won't matter what 2 + 2 equals. It'll only matter who's got the most creative lie and how much of the population is able to buy into it best. That's what it'll be. However, some of you might disagree. There might be some members of the audience here tonight who want to clear this up for us. By the way, if we do have any Ben Shapiro fans out there who would like to let us all know about how wrong we are and that this is really all anti-Semitic and that this has just all been one big understanding, of course, you are invited to go ahead and give us a call here as well. We're going to go ahead and drop the Zoom link into the chat room there for you there. We'll pin that to the top of the chat. Please remember, if you call on Zoom, make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on just so we don't have any trolling issues. YouTube is not going to see you. YouTube won't see you, just the host. That's me. But just to make sure that we don't have any trolling issues when you're calling on Zoom, make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on just so we don't have any trolling issues. And by the way, if you have any issues about what I said here tonight, you are certainly welcome to go ahead and give us a call here as well. The Jewish white supremacists are finding out that they're on the outs. They were looking for folks to circle the wagons. It didn't happen. Megyn Kelly has disowned them. Tucker Carlson has trampled them. Candace Owens is getting filthy rich off of them. It's all going downhill from here. You can buy TikTok. You can buy CBS. You can buy Walgreens. What? You can purchase whatever you want to here. Please understand, the lesson of Nick Fuentes is that the underground is going to speak. And you pushing this stuff to the underground isn't going to snuff it out. It allows it to fester even more. These are the demons and the monsters that you created. And the only way to resolve this now is you're going to have to fight it hand to hand. That's what you're going to have to do. Although, can you all imagine Ben Shapiro's lily-livered, spaghetti noodle neck, limp-wristed boxing gloves trying to fight his way out of this? I do not predict that things are going to go well. If he's your fight trainer, it's not going to go well. We're going to go ahead here and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed for tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out to DMV Nation. Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. To Paulie 1242. To my man, Mr. Richburg, to Keenan, to Glennis, and to everyone else here. Denise Bowler, I ain't seen Denise in a minute. Thank you very much, sister. We appreciate that. Paul is giving out some memberships to The Gift That Keeps On Giving, Logic Before Emotion. Thank you very much for your support here. Sherry, Terrell, and everybody else here. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. I got folks piling up on the Zoom here, so everybody sit tight here in the meantime. We're going to go ahead and get to all of y'all here. We'll be back with you here after this very brief commercial, non-commercial break. This is the Black Channel.
Be the teacher, knowledge on the block. Got the kids learning, minds open like a lock. Book books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we ripping the gains. Students to be the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And we are discussing about how, Jewish White Supremacist MAGA is very, very upset. They're on the outside looking in. There will not be a reversal of fortunes. This is the new normal. It's been a rough ride. The ride will only get rougher. Screaming anti-Semitism isn't working. It isn't helping. It's not changing anything. These guys made it cool to be white supremacist, to use racial epithets. By the way, remember that? These are the folks here who were defending Shiloh Hendricks. Ben Shapiro did not condemn anybody here. These are the folks who wanted to make using racial epithets because black folk were the target. They wanted to make that cool to do. They wanted to make that cool to do. And then they found out the hard way that that was not going to work. And now they're trying to figure out, what do we do about it? Let's go ahead and jump over here on Zoom right quick. Let me go ahead and jump over here on Zoom. Let's see if we can get Brother Elijah up here on Zoom for us right quick. All right, Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, big brother. I got two questions, brother, for the sake of continuity. Because I'm confused, and you're more of an authority on this topic right here with the Jewish, the so-called Jewish white supremacists. I got a question. What is the difference between a devil Anglo white supremacist and a nasty so-called Jewish white supremacist like Ben the Nasty Devil Shapiro?
Well, the thing is, the real difference is that one identifies with Europe and the other one identifies with Jerusalem.
Okay.
Now,
yes,
there's the real quote unquote difference. That's where it really comes down. Right there. One is doing this quote unquote for the glory of Europe, and the other one is doing it for the glory of quote unquote Jerusalem. Well, how does this all tie together, Jason? How does this make sense? Well, remember, Nick Fuentes told you. That's why I pointed that out to you all. It was very, very important for me to show you that. Now you all see the comments that folks have made since then are confirming what I tried to give you all a heads up about. When Nick Fuentes realizes that he can't really play that white card like that, and he was talking about Christianity, but that one doesn't really work for him either. And then he said, by the way, he's talking about Western civilization is rooted in Christianity, but then tells you that Western civilization actually predates Christianity.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So what he's telling you is that he doesn't want he doesn't want the substantiation of it to be a religious argument. That it needs to be an ethnic geopolitical one, not a religious one. So he doesn't want to make the tent big enough to accommodate that religion is the foundation of the basis of it. What he's telling you is Europe. That's what Nick Fuentes is telling you. The foundation of Western civilization and his ideology and everything else, what they based on, their identity is based on Europe. Well, Jewish people are not saying that. They're holding up the Bible and telling you that this is the basis of their ideology, at least the Old Testament is.
Yes, sir.
And so in their case, no, we don't draw it to Rome. We don't draw it to Europe because the Bible doesn't say man started in Europe. It says man started the head of the Tigris in the Euphrates, although that's not them, but that's a different discussion. But in any case, so that's why they're doing that right there. So that's what the fight is over. Everybody's jockeying for position about who's going to be superior, who's going to get deference, who you're all going to defer to. The problem is the Europeans won that militarily, so you can't push that one. And so the Jewish white supremacists have been trying ever since to get a foothold and some credibility in the seat of the table on those terms. But the problem is because the only basis that they're offering is religion.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're not Christian, so you can't really trade on that. Well, what about Abrahamic religions? And it's like, yeah, but the problem is Europe has moved beyond the Abrahamic part of it.
Yes, sir.
So Europe has moved beyond that, and they've come up with something that supersedes that, which is Christianity. And you all are flatly in denial of that. So there's where the break comes for you, is that you can't get credibility at the European table until you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, which you're not doing. So that's the stumbling block for them. But if you all want to know where it really comes down to, it really comes down to identity. And that both of these factions say that they have the one true identity. And the Anglos are like, the white identity dates back to Europe. Therefore, we are the legitimate heirs. So we should be holding the knife that cuts the white supremacist cake because we are the legitimate heirs. And then you have the Jewish white supremacists say, no, no, no. It goes to the Mediterranean, or it goes to Israel, or it goes to Jerusalem, or whichever place we're choosing this week. It goes there, and therefore we are the legitimate heirs. And that's the crux of the argument.
Big brother, you mentioned this other nasty devil white supremacist, Nick, who likes to take dictation Fuentes. I have a question because they've been talking this gibberish going back and forth between the Anglos and the and these devil white Jews and everything like that. Not all of them. I'm not talking about all the Jews. I'm talking about the ones who practice white supremacy. Why are they just popping off at the mouth? What is really holding back the Anglos from doing something to the Jews? Like you keep talking all this hatred, all this BS about them, but you're not moving on them and everything. And you actually, we got to keep it a buck. And I'm not advocating for this, but they have the numbers to basically wipe them out. Why they just keep on popping off at the mouth? And they just, if you got this problem, why are you still letting them linger around? What is the problem?
I mean, World War II was the real last time that came to a head there. That was the last time that came to a head. But that's not really their goal. That's not really their interest. Because they worked. Remember, this is about who's going to be dominant, is the thing. And once again, like I say, Candace Owens has tried to open up rabbit holes about that too, as a matter of fact, because, I mean, she's not really lying. If you take a look at Joseph Ben Gurion, without me getting too far into that discussion, the truth of the matter is that a lot of the so-called Jews who went into Israel, they didn't really want to fool with the European ones. So you all can go take a look at that for yourselves, although a lot of you know about that already. But Ben Gurion and them, a lot of them were like, we're cool on them European Jews. They wanted to get the population up, but they weren't. There were factions they weren't really cool about. So y'all can look into that for yourselves. I don't want to get too far in the woods because then I don't want to get you all too far distracted, but
yes, sir. Yes,
she's
sir.
not lying about that part. That's very accurate. So it's not cut and dry. A lot of people have tried to give you the World War II thing as if it's cut and dry. What I'm saying is a lot of it's accurate, but a lot of it has been distorted for the purposes of getting a very simplistic explanation that says these guys bad, we over here good. But in reality, there were folks who were making deals. And there were folks who were making deals and, who's going to set us up and who's getting paid. And there was a lot of that going on. So when you get off in the woods of it here, you really realize that this is an amalgam that's been made, is what's happened.
Yes,
so
sir.
it was never really about that. It never really was. What has happened, however, is that you have an economy and, Jewish people have operated very, very good in the capitalistic system.
Of course.
They've operated very good. They've operated very well. You see a lot of the same thing with Asians, although with Jewish people, the difference is Jewish people have gone more they've really focused more on enterprise.
Yes, sir.
And that was different. So where Asians are concerned, it was small business. Where Jewish folk are concerned, they were more trying to get into big business. Let me see how big this can get. And so that for that reason, they've operated very good in capitalistic systems. Mm-hmm. That's not what you had in Stalin's Russia. That's not really what you had in Hitler's Germany either. Not really. So they've done very well in this environment. And as a result, everything is fine. As far as Anglo society is concerned, that's perfectly fine as long as they're contributing to the economy and not controlling it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna land my plane with this one, big brother. They keep when you mention about the one who supports Europe, the Anglo and the so-called Jews who support about Israel, and people tend to forget Israel is on stolen land from Gaza, all right, from Palestine and everything like that. And I'm trying to figure out, you're on stolen land because them Palestinians allowed them to come over there after World War II due to what happened in Nazi Germany. My whole thing is, what are you controlling and everything like that? And then you make people wonder why you got put in those damn, no disrespect, they don't, not all of them, but they got put in those damn fires and everything like that, because right after the war, look what they turned around and did to the Palestinians after they let them in their home. So my thing is, what is the Jews? What do they think they're going to be controlling or dominating? I've never seen a Jewish president and everything. You'll only see them go up as high as a mayor, or a governor and everything like that. But you'll never. I don't believe you'll see that a Jewish. President.
Well, you might. But here's the thing: they've never relied on superior population numbers, which is smart.
Okay.
That's real. That's really, I don't want to say cunning, but I will say that's very innovative. That they've literally said, we're never going to make it our goal to rely on population numbers. The reason for that is because that limits your mobility.
Okay.
So if the only way you can move around is if you got superior population numbers, that's automatically going to limit your sphere of influence.
Yes, sir.
They focused instead on how do we become innovative citizens? How do we do that? They focused on that instead, and that's actually a smart way of doing things.
Yes, sir.
So how do I get a foothold wherever I go? Okay, I didn't have to bring population numbers. No, I brought economic numbers. And so that's always been important for them everywhere they go, to make sure they got some sort of economic ability when they get there. So that's how you make sure you got mobility. And it works. It absolutely works. And it's worked over here. So politics is controlled by economy.
Yes, sir.
That's just the bottom line. So you got it backwards if you're starting with the politics first and figuring you're building the economy out of it.
Yes,
you're a lot better looking at building economy first, and the politics must respond to it.
Yes, sir.
And that's been the strategy that's been put into place here.
Yes, sir.
The issue, however, becomes when you have a situation like you have now, because right now, you have a number of them who have gotten into very influential positions, and they got their Greater Israel Project, and that's not a conspiracy theory. So Benjamin Netanyahu has said it, and his lieutenants have said it, and Ben Gvir has said it. So when you tell folks that when we show you a video of them saying those kind of things, and then you try to tell us, well, listen to me because I say that doesn't mean that. Okay, sit down. That kind of stuff right there really just destroys your point. So the bottom line is, this is a faction of white supremacy that's trying to figure out how to get dominance within it.
Yes, sir.
And just like with the Latinos, Viva La Raza, just like with the Asians.
What?
Okay, folks don't want to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Both Vivek Ramaswamy and the formerly known as Orientals. Everybody wants to improve their position within it, and everybody's trying to get a dominant position within that.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you see happening here. So thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that.
Thank you for taking my call, big brother. B1T.
Yes, everybody fighting to figure out how they can, get their little piece of it and see how they can maneuver themselves for dominance over the others so that they can lead the agenda. So what I've told you all going on 2 decades now, it is about fighting. None of them are trying to destroy white supremacy. All of them are fighting over who's going to hold the knife that cuts the white supremacist cake. They're not fighting over will there be white supremacy. They're just fighting over who's going to hold the knife that cuts up the slices of the white supremacist cake. That's it. That's all. All right, let's jump back over here on Zoom again. We got, okay, what is your name, sister?
My name's Crystal.
Hello, Crystal. Where are you calling me from?
I'm calling you from California.
All right, where at in California?
Los Angeles.
All right, Southern California. What's on your mind, Crystal?
Well, hello, Mr. Black. I want to thank you for your broadcast and creating a safe place for these conversations and topics as this evening. I used to listen to Mr. Shapiro without a clear understanding about how his motives and how he was affecting my life until this broadcast. And I just want to thank you for bringing it up.
Where are your people originally from, ma'am?
I'm from Mississippi, Jacksonville.
She's got that Caribbean gap in her teeth. Are you sure?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I do.
I'm about to say
my grandmother's from Louisiana.
Okay, how many generations I got to go back on that family tree before I get to the Caribbean?
Probably not too far, because I think I'm the last of my descendants at this point. Yeah.
Right, but I'm okay. She doesn't want to say where in the Caribbean, but I'm like, okay. And what I'm saying is that, in particular there, especially on the coast for some strange reason, it's been a lot of the females tend to be susceptible to a lot of that coonery that these folk handed out. So the Fox News, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, influences, there's a lot of that was going on. And kind of still does, as a matter of fact, kind of still does. Some of y'all who've been around long enough, you kind of grown out of it. So hopefully that is something that spreads. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you, and I land my plane right there.
Well, let me find out. What was it about what they were saying that you found to be so appealing?
I just think the attire. I was, excuse me, like many millennials or people like my age group, we were just coerced to just attend these, media gatherings where we just listen to certain things that adults would suggest to us. So that's where I found myself in these different platforms, just attracted to it because I was suggested to venture off in those domains. But I just stopped listening to him for a while after my own personal affairs. So.
You had something personally happen?
Yes, I had a Jewish manager, and I used to work for the Postal Service, and they had a lot of discriminatory acts towards me, and I didn't understand it. But after your broadcast, I understand that they have anti-Semitic, I think you believe you said, that they have their own groups where they protect each other. And so I didn't know that he had the same motive. And,
well, let me find out here. where your parents are concerned, what did they ever teach you or discuss with you about that?
They didn't have they didn't have much education about that. My mother she came here in California on a train to escape Jim Crow.
Okay, man, but if she was from Louisiana, she was very well aware about racism, white supremacy, so I can't believe that she didn't game her daughter up about that.
I feel like we do have our ways to game up our daughters, because I do it as well.
Well, no, I'm talking about your mom, though. I'm talking about her specifically, because it sounds like, I don't know, you haven't indicated that you all had a conversation or that she taught you about these things. So what did she teach you about that?
Well, sir, she was a college dropout. She got pregnant at the age, I believe, 12. She was essayed by her brother, so she didn't have much education, period.
Okay, but ma'am, this type of education isn't what you get at the schoolhouse door. It is the education that she gets from walking around just like you did.
Right, correct.
And especially if she was raised in Louisiana. I'm a lifelong Louisiana resident, so there's no way you don't get educated about that here. So something's missing.
Correct. You would not get educated like that here in California. They were all escapees, like runaway slaves. From Louisiana, she went to Mississippi. Then they were able to send her on the train because she's fair skinned. She looked like a white baby.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, now that was the part I didn't want to suggest it to you. I was just waiting to see if you were going to say it yourself. So that's the kind of thing that kind of explains that if they don't get quite the same treatment, then they start coming away confused, as Brother Neely Fuller used to teach us. They start coming away confused, and then their goal becomes making their lives comfortable as opposed to making their lives honorable. Here's the problem. Mama might be able to get some light-skinned deference, but if her daughter don't come out looking the same way, you ain't gonna get it.
That's true.
Next thing, you just walking around out here like a duck in a new world every day. And you're going to get your block taken off because there's not going to be any white privilege nor light skin privilege for you. You're just going to get the beats. And that's exactly what happens when you find out that California ain't no different from Louisiana. So yeah, that becomes difficult. Now, what about your dad?
I've never met him. My mother told me about him.
Well, we'll come back to that. But for both of where both of your parents were concerned, like I say, if nobody's teaching you all this right here, this is the world you're going into. And then you just find out, that way. Now, give me just a few moments here, because you're talking about she fled from Louisiana. You don't look very old to me. You're a millennial.
Yes.
So it's not like your mama left Louisiana back in the civil rights days. It's not like that.
Yeah, she actually did. She was sent on a train with.
Okay, how old is your mom?
My mom, she passed away. She was what I call is a modern day lynch. She's deceased.
Okay, how old was she?
She was 54.
Okay, how long she been gone?
She's been gone for about, I would say, 25 years now. For me, I'm not sure if it's 20 or 30. Yeah. Or 15 years, because she passed away in 2015. I'm sorry. It's just I get emotional when I think about it.
Okay, she was 54. She would be 64 or 65 now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that makes a little bit of a difference there. Like I say, she would have been born back in the 60s.
Yes.
She would have been born right back in the 60s. So that's when she would have been born. By the time she was 12 years old, she'd be in the 70s.
Yes.
So, wasn't a whole lot of fleeing at that point, except some, like I said, there's a little bit of weirdness going on where that's concerned. However, when were you born?
I was born in 1987.
1987.
Yes.
Okay. So you're not her first child?
No, my mother had 6. There's 2 older than me.
Okay. Well, she had 6 children there and whatnot. And like I say, it's just if they do not educate you all, they look for y'all because you're useful. Particularly if you're darker skinned, like Candace Owens. They look for you all. So it's the churches do it, and white supremacy is a religion. And they look for females that they can co-opt. They look for females they can indoctrinate. Just like with the black boys, they end up in these colleges. Then they end up workhorses going to play football and play sports and whatnot to enrich the colleges. The black females they found for some of y'all, if they can get to you early enough and take you under their wing, next thing you know, you become nigresses for Charlie Kirk or nigresses for Turning Point or, nigresses for Trump. It becomes that. Next thing you know, you like Diamond and Silk. And but that's the goal. We can take a look at Simone Sanders, look at Candace Owens. There's a reason why I can rattle off. They didn't just find them out of nowhere. They did not just grab them out of nowhere, man. They looked for y'all. And if they look like you fit the profile and you'll be susceptible and you'll take the programming, you kind of got starry-eyed. If you look like you're looking for direction, you're looking for guidance, don't have a strong male figure. See, I got to remind you all of a few things. They didn't choose Charlie Kirk out of nowhere. They did not choose him out of nowhere. If you all take a look at Charlie Kirk like 15 years ago, he was a little fat, paunchy little thing. They got to him and got him a trainer and said, yeah, you're going to have to drop some pounds. Because Charlie's he was not a short dude. He was not a short guy at all. So he'd be a tall fella. So you next to him, he's tall, square-jawed, Aryan. They chose him for a reason. Same thing as Donald Trump. Donald Trump's like, 6'3", 6'4"? Right. So they chose these guys for a reason. Some folk might not like this next part here, but Bill O'Reilly is like 6'5", 6'7". Keith Olbermann, about the same height. So I'm saying for these media ventures, you start to see a pattern form. You do. And they do that deliberately. So when you meet them in person, you a black female and you probably about 5'2".
Yeah, we're about that. You're right.
There you go. All right. Well, you meet Charlie Kirk. He's 6'3". You automatically got to look up to him. So George Washington was the same way, by the way. I need you all to understand this is not new. Yes, when we're talking about these white men who are, quote, leaders, this is not new. George Washington was 6 foot something, like 6'4". I want to say he was about 6'4". Not new. This is an old strategy that's been used. That this person has to have presence. And the biggest part of presence is, okay, if you're taller than them, you're a cut above. So there's a reason why you keep seeing that come up over and over again. Vince McMahon built a multi-billion-dollar empire off of that. You couldn't be the champion if you weren't a big dude. So Terry Bollea, Bruno Sammartino, Jim Hellwig. It's not really till we get to Bret Hart that you're below that 6'4" range. It's not really till you get there that it gets that down to there. So just think about that for a few moments. So I'm just saying they know how to influence you all when they meet you. These men that you talk to weren't chosen out of nowhere. Ben Shapiro, now here's the difference there. She never met Ben Shapiro in person. She's just seen him on YouTube. So that little 4-foot dwarf, she didn't really have to get into that right there. What they do in his case is they overwhelm you with data and information and this is why you have to have us here, folks, because now everybody wants to snitch on Ben. None of these people were snitching on Ben Shapiro in Daily Wire 3 years ago. Now they're snitching on him and saying, they made a deal with Facebook and made a deal with YouTube. And other folk acting crazy about, we didn't know you could do that. And during the pandemic, Daily Wire made a deal with Facebook not to suppress their ads or their postings.
Okay.
Yeah, not just to put up ads or posts, but also they have a sweetheart deal with Facebook. Now, it could be because Ben Shapiro and Zuckerberg are both Jewish white supremacists. It most likely has got something to do with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, but now we know they had the same deal with YouTube.
Okay.
What? Yeah, now folks can start snitching on them and saying, by the way, with YouTube and Facebook, they had a deal with them that basically gave them preferential treatment. So what I'm saying is you did not encounter Ben Shapiro by accident.
Okay.
I went to that whole big long speech to let you know, by the way, you didn't end up there by accident, baby. You were maneuvered there. You were led there. Just like Joe Rogan. All of us know who Joe Rogan is. It doesn't matter if you never watched the UFC. Yeah, because YouTube has put him on the front page for all of you. You're not allowed to not see him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's how you met Ben Shapiro. You were not allowed to not see it. They saturated it. They saturated the airways with it to make sure you encountered him over and over again. And you're going to click on something at least once because it keeps suggesting it to you. So you just assume, well, there must be something that they think I would be interested in. And eventually you click on one thing. And this is what we call programming.
Okay.
Well, what do you mean by that? Baby, you've seen it your whole life. I mean, you're old enough that there was a time you used to listen to the radio. Well,
yes.
Okay, but in your lifetime, particularly for millennials, you all watched as radio changed. It used to have a variety. Now they just play the same 6 songs every hour.
That's true.
Right, but that has nothing to do with how good the song is. That is all a deliberate, conscious effort to mentally manipulate you so that eventually the song is basically to drill the song in your head.
Okay.
That eventually it's going to stick. It doesn't matter if the quality is specious. It's going to stick. So that's why they keep that repetition. So eventually that song's going to be bouncing around your head whether you want it to or not. Mm-hmm. Okay, same thing with YouTube and Facebook. We will keep hitting you with this until eventually it wears you down. And you're going to investigate something.
Right.
And then next thing you know, now you talking about Turning Point MAGA. And because you and Ben Shapiro agree on maybe 1 or 2 things. He rattles off 20 different topics. You and him agree on 1 or 2 things. Oh yeah, and he says the same stuff every day when he comes back. So next thing you know, you start identifying with him, which is the real goal. You need repetition so you can start identifying.
Right.
You don't identify as a white Jewish female, but on these issues, he keeps telling you he's got some different perspective or some different viewpoint on it here, some revelation. And then next thing you know, oh, tell me more.
Right.
And this is what Candace Owens has been doing. She learned those tricks and now she's executing them herself. But I want you to be aware, I'm so glad you got to us over here. I want you to know how you ended up over there because there's a bunch of other females that you're going to encounter and they're talking crazy too. Maybe you can help them now that you understand how you ended up there and get them to ask some different questions. Because the fact of the matter is that wasn't my accident.
Yes.
It wasn't my accident. And your mind's not playing tricks on you about what happened at your job either. Your mind's not playing tricks on you. Because you'll be sitting there talking about we need to do good things for them folks over there and leaving yourself unprotected and then they undermine you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of folks' experience, people. YouTube saturates it with Fox News. They saturate it with Ben Shapiro. They saturate it with, Steven Crowder. It doesn't matter if you don't want to watch it, if you don't want to listen to it. Every white supremacist or fringe white supremacist out there, they saturate this thing with them. Facebook saturates it. Twitter has just become a KKK rally. They have absolutely flooded it with it. You can't escape it. It's there every day. When you go to the homepage, they got some more for you. And if you missed it the last time, well, they'll just recycle it for you. Patrick, Bet, David, and the rest of them. YouTube has an entire ecosystem of white supremacists that they keep boosting and keep putting out there. Now, we get shadow banned over here. Even when I buy ads, we get shadow banned over here. But this is for the indoctrination. Take a look at her. She was a millennial. Yeah, they want to get you young folk. They want to get them before they can hear us. Their parents are out there bull jiving around. They want to get them and infect them before they can listen to any of us, because by then they've messed up their lives for them. By then they've got you so damn screwed up that now you have to be deprogrammed. That's a long, laborious process. So it makes it very difficult under those circumstances. No, telling the thing that you're not interested, that doesn't help. They're just going to bring it back. No, that button don't work. That not interested in this, don't show me this again. No, that button don't work for this stuff. Yeah, they're like, okay, everybody gonna get to see this. Everybody gonna get to check this out. And they target the young. They want to indoctrinate them, screw them up so badly way before they ever even hear that we exist over here in the new black media. That's the goal. They are vicious race warriors. Let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again. Let's see if we can get Brother Shakir up here on Zoom. All right, Shakir, what's on your mind?
Jason, you handle a considerable number of issues with a lot of aplomb. But I think when it comes to the worldview of the Jews, they have the rationalization that the end justifies the means. And they're very entitled people. Now, I say that, and for those people, I think, and when it comes to politics, nothing for them is contemptible. Like you've cited the slave trade, the attack on the liberty, this forced sterilization of Ethiopian women, the treatment of the Palestinians, and I'm sure there have been other things. And I think that such people, they won't really have no hesitation to use a preemptive nuclear strike on any perceived enemy because their worldview is just that it's a dog-eat-dog world to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was touching on there before, where they're saying it's like Anglo white supremacy. I'm white and I say so. Okay, I'm Jewish white supremacist. I'm right and I say so. Is whatever I say it is.
So these people are truly dangerous, and now also what has come to my attention is just that a lot of places around the world have started deporting Israeli tourists because they had that sense of entitlement. Have you heard anything about that?
I mean, look, bottom line is that's what they've been fighting for is preferential treatment. They've been fighting for preferential treatment. So this idea, like I say, I mean, that's why I was bringing the thing about the Goyim. I mean, as much as some folks try to deny it, they don't like folk looking into that because these are terms that they thought, oh, nobody will really investigate this to see what that means. Nah, folks have been investigating that. They've known about it for decades. People are just too polite to bring it up in open conversation. But yeah, folks are having that conversation. So that's what I was saying about that before. That's what I was getting at there before. So no, I didn't miss out on this. That's what I was referring to. This idea that the rest of us really do like being lorded over by them, them dominating over us, just like the Anglo white supremacists, that's really where we belong and that's really where we want to be. And that the only issue we have is that we're fighting our natural position. And that goes for everybody who is not a, quote, member of their group. So yes, that's the time that they're on, and that's the perspective they're coming at it from.
Do you this is a side note, do you ever get a chance to speak with Bob Law?
Not recently. I haven't. No, I haven't had a chance to speak with him recently. So I've been in and out of New York and stuff, but I haven't had a chance to speak to him recently.
Yeah, well, I always when I appear here, I've always wanted to ask you that. I think that brother is really on point about a lot of issues, and there's a lot to be gleaned from having a conversation with him.
Well, I mean, he was in my last documentary film, so I imagine, yes, I agree with that. He was in he was in Race War, so yes, I talked to Bob Law. 7 years ago. So when I first talked to him, it was 7 years ago. So I didn't just find him.
Okay. Were Jews, I'm asking you this, were Jews really complicit in pushing abortions on the Black American women in the United States? Because I heard from like 1973 to like 2023, supposedly there have been like 16 million aborted Black children. Were the Jews?
It's been more than that.
Oh, well, I don't know.
It's been more than that. But the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, you have Jewish people all over society and, all facets of society. and in influential positions all over the place. So yes, by definition, just numerically speaking, you're going to encounter that. As far as it being a, concerted effort, like I say, I mean, definitely, I think there's enough evidence when you take a look at certain people, especially in government, academia. That is not accidental, and certainly a whole lot more could have been done to neutralize those individuals by other Jewish people. So that kind of thing right there. So yes, definitely there are a number of folks from there who have contributed to that in particular. Now, right. The issue, of course, would be that you would not be allowed to try to influence that the same way in Israel, or not forget Israel. Hell, in New York State, you're not really. They don't really give you a lane to push that on Jewish women. They don't give you a lane to push that in Hasidic society. They don't give you a lane to do that.
Now, for this, I'll close with this. For the Somalis, right? Those people, like they've struck up a deal, the Jews with the Somaliland people, but I noticed that the focus has been on the supposedly Somali corruption, but you brought up Curious Joel in upstate New York, and nothing has been said about how they're living off the public dole. The concentration has been on the Somalis, and it should be, because some of our tax dollars, I'm talking about FBAs or Black Americans, our tax dollars went to, they scammed us out of that. But Curious Joel, right, they've been living off the public dole, but you don't see anything in the media about them. And like you said, they control a large portion of the media block.
No, I mean, the media is going to try to pretend like that doesn't even exist. So there's a reason why I had to bring it to the forefront here, because, yeah, I mean, they're going to try to act like this stuff doesn't even exist, because obviously it prompts some very immediate questions. Once you bring up Curious Joel and you find out the details, like, wait a minute, hold on a second, some stuff we've been talking to you all about, you're already doing. And so this just goes straight to, basically, they're being subsidized by the government directly. And here's the problem with Curious Joel. I brought up Curious Joel because that is one specific incident or one specific instance, but that is hardly an isolated one. All over New York and New Jersey, but upstate in New York City and upstate New York. No, there's a number of different places like Curious Joel. Curious Joel, the real thing about Curious Joel is the standard practice of it. You have a Jewish enclave, direct government support, and their whole thing is, sitting around reading religious books, and the women have as many kids as they can crack out. And you see that all over New York City. That's why I told everybody about Ocean over there in Brooklyn and the letter streets over there in Brooklyn. My folks who live in Brooklyn know about the letter streets. And they got big apartment complexes, big tenement houses. And what I'm saying is, like, over there off of Ocean, man, like, I was over there at literally 1 o'clock in the morning. They got their own police over there. I mean, New York, NYPD.
Are you talking about Alphabet City?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'm talking about off of Ocean. There are the letter streets, the streets that have letters, like Avenue D, Avenue L, Avenue K. So
yeah, in New York City, there's a place called Alpha. Yeah.
They got their own police over there, and I was there at 1 in the morning, and I'm watching Hasidic Jews walking around, male and female, at 1 in the morning, pushing strollers, walking, reading their religious texts. I'm not telling you what somebody else told me. I'm telling you what I seen with my own eyes. So nobody can tell me that was a YouTube video or it ain't really like that. I'm like, oh, I just popped up out of nowhere. Random check. Random block check. And I'm like, okay, there you go. There you go. So I'm sitting there seeing that. And it's not like that was just one street, dude. I'm talking about this must have been at least 10 blocks. It must be at least 10 blocks of that. And like, for example, they bought up all the houses in the neighborhood. If there's only a few folks really who are not Jewish who still own houses there, and they make offers to folks all the time. Well, we'll buy your house for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And just that'll be the last time a non-Jewish person is there. And nobody has told them that that's illegal, violates housing law or whatever. Folks have not been cracking down on them like they're supposed to. What they're doing is straight up against the law.
Yeah, I also heard that in Curious Joel, where the women were renting out apartments and that their husbands owned, and that they were getting the rent supplements and giving it to their husbands.
Yeah, that roundabout circle thing there. They're on Section 8. I mean, that's the whole Section 8 thing right there. And they made a lot of money off of that, off of us and other people and whatnot. But yeah, they found a way to do that for their people as well. And just watch out in the building. Make sure there's not mattresses in the basement. What? Just trying to keep that from happening.
Do you think they'll form an alliance with the Somalis? Because I know this woman, this Shora woman.
It does. That doesn't mean what you all think it means. The reason for it, what you're referring to is Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, basically acknowledging Somaliland as a sovereign state, which is nonsense. But the reason for it is because
location?
Yeah, the reason for it is because they got some quack idea that they're going to make a deal with Somaliland that they'll take the Palestinians. So that's the reason for that right there. Is Somaliland will recognize you all as a state if you take the Palestinians. So anybody who agrees to that is as dumb as they look, but that's their real scheme where that's concerned. Whether it'll work or not is a different matter. Whether or not you can get Somaliland to be like that, because if Israel can say Palestinians not a state, then why can't Somalia say Somaliland's not one? A breakaway province, what nation tolerates that? So, like I say, it's a long shot, but what they're showing is they're trying anything. They're just trying anything.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you for giving us a call here tonight. All right, let me see if we can get one brother up here on Zoom for us right quick. Yeah, folks, I mean, they're just trying some of anything over there. You can't keep doing things like that and then tell people that, you're victims here. You got to stop doing that first, Benjamin Netanyahu. All right, let me see if we can get one brother up here. All right, one brother, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. B1, sir. Good evening to the family. First off, I want to acknowledge that crucial historical context you gave. How they, like Ben Shapiro in particular, paints Black victims shamelessly, adults and children, as criminals, and they're always perfectly fine gaslighting our humanity. But I just had one question, sir, which was not that we're holding our breath or need to, but what is it actually going to take, or what are the series of events that it would take for this faction of European Jewish society to actually turn this behavior they have towards us around, if anything would?
I mean, well, the first thing is right now here for everybody out there, it don't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you're. Latinos for Trump, Asian, Indian, Jewish, Palestinian, Somalian. Yeah, y'all, we got to let y'all feel the breeze. You're going to have to feel the breeze out here because everybody I just named was perfectly fine ganging up on us. I should not have to say a damn word about no Ben Shapiro. He should have got dealt with by Jewish society. Once he starts talking like that, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Because if Trayvon Martin were Trayvon Goldberg, Ben Shapiro would never have said no garbage like that. He's only saying that because he celebrates the murder and death of Black children, which is why it's so easy for people to believe that him as a Zionist believes in genocide. Because we've watched him support and defend vigilante genocide here in America. So it's very easy when he gets together with other people of his ilk that, okay, yeah, y'all are a bunch of genocidal individuals. If you think that we're all going to get together and start supporting the genocide people, I don't know what you're putting in the unleavened bread. They must be putting some fentanyl in it because you're just delusional. You're delusional and you're crazy and you're hallucinating. So it's not going to work. What I'm saying, brother, is that this is the great peril of being in a place where you don't have anybody who doesn't agree with you talking. All you hear is a bunch of other jackasses around you who already believe what you believe. The peril of this is that they're great for support, but they're terrible for objectivity. They're going to tell you that you're winning and that you're always winning and that you continue to win. And that if some word of dissent does leak into you, oh, don't worry about them. They're a pathetic minority. They're just sorry because they're losing. And the problem is you never get an objective analysis of when the people have grabbed their pitchforks and they're against you. Worst of all, you don't get an objective analysis of when you are outnumbered. You're not the majority. Trump did not win the 2024 election. Kamala Harris lost it. Trump didn't win it. But you've deceived yourself into believing that you've won because you want to believe it's real, as opposed to saying we have been given a very finite window with which to utilize this. First order of business, get down on bended knee in sackcloth and ashes and beg black people's forgiveness. That should have been the first order of business. Instead, you hear Janine Whack Job Psycho Janine Pirro talking about black people don't want government helping them. Black people want to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's like, if y'all don't get this little crazy heifer up out of here, what I'm saying is what she's saying is nonsense. It's idiocy. And you're feeding yourself your own delusion and you ain't got the good damn sense to stop and just say, this isn't a real thing. This is just what I want to believe. You should have used this as your opportunity to have some breathing room to say, you know what, we need to make this tent bigger. Because all 2024 was a stay of execution. It wasn't a paradigm shift. It was a stay of execution. And that's what occurred. Now you've fallen completely out of touch with reality, which is where they are now. Completely out of touch with it. And at this point right here, there's nothing they can do. They think that there are enough rich Zionist Jewish individuals that, well, if people don't believe us anymore, we'll just control the avenues where they can speak. And then we'll just tell them, well, you can talk about anything you want, just not this over here. And then eventually this will condition and program everybody. And then next thing you know, that we got the slaves back in line. It's like, you don't get it. You don't get it. By telling people don't talk about this, this only wants to make them more interested. Well, why don't you want us to talk about this? You are making the rabbit hole deeper by telling people don't talk about the rabbit hole. You're making it deeper. So I'm not saying anything. They're doing everything necessary to exacerbate the situation. And every month that goes by, the more you do these heavy-handed, obvious tactics, the more all you're doing is giving Nick Fuentes content. You're just giving him more content. He would not have to talk about TikTok or the CBS acquisition if you hadn't done that. He'd be just talking about he would still be having a hammer on Charlie Kirk. That's what the topic would be. So they're shooting themselves in the foot and reloading. So what will it take to make it change? Dude, they're going to the same thing as everybody else. They're going to have to take the lumps and be suffering there for a while. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take when they start seeing the politics turn against them openly. When they realize that, yeah, candidates can run and win. Running against you, they can run and win. Because in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is not anti-Jewish. He's just not pro-Zionist. And for them, if you're not pro-Zionist, we're supposed to be able to bully you and badger you and beat you into submissionist. And that was the biggest city in America. That was the shot across the bow. The most Jewish city in America. You're not on your way to losing it. You've already lost. And all these desperate attempts, to try to rig the vote, that's not going to help you. As a matter of fact, this is going to make the issue worse.
You made a particular point earlier in the broadcast about them being used to being the minority and operating, with that handicap, so to speak. Does that play into their behavior not turning around at all, in the sense that they're like, well, we're the minority anyway, so they almost don't see how they're losing because they don't have the support, but they're used to not having that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the issue here is that word minority is very confusing and very deceptive, because what it does is that you have so many groups in America that they want to be minorities when it's convenient. And then when they're off by themselves, well, we is really power brokers over here in our corner. That's why we told you about that with the Latinos and with the Asians. So that's where they enter in the schizophrenic mindset. They want to be minorities when it's convenient. So all that really gives you is a split personality. And it's going to be very, very hard for you to be effective when you keep having to shift gears at a moment's notice, because you can't control the environments you keep coming into. Then they do like Ben Shapiro and just try to control when and where you speak. And that makes it even worse, because then you turn for Turning Point USA and make an ass of yourself. So you got to come out the house at some point. So when it comes to that minority thing, they are confused and deceived by their own doing, because they have refused to be objective. So that minority, when convenient, it's only turned to be deceptive to them. And yes, you are right. It's giving them a skewed view of everything. I'm in charge. Oh, wait a minute. I'm a minority now. Okay, are they gone? Okay, I'm back in charge, right? And it's that. And you're acting like we didn't see you when you were in charge. Larry Ellison cannot go spend $20 billion in Abilene, Texas, right after he spent $50 billion for CBS, and then you're telling me you're a minority. This does not compute.
You gave us that brilliant phrase, social minority, or the numerical minority, but socioeconomic majority. Is that going to give them a longer runway? Also, like you're saying with Larry Ellison spending all these billions.
I mean, it gives them more tools to throw more stuff at the wall to see what sticks. I mean, when you as Robert Rodriguez said, when you run out of money, you turn your money hose. They have a money hose. So what happens when you have a money hose? When you see a problem, just spray your money hose at it, and that's what you end up doing, even if that's not the best or most effective thing to do. You see why it's been effective for us is because we broke. We can wave the minority flag because, hey, we're the minority at every level across the board. The rest of y'all are just cosplaying. We're the only legitimate minority, and we have the lack of economics to prove it. Everybody else is trying to get that legitimacy. Yeah, I just couldn't help but notice you is too well paid to be a minority. Your money is stacked too thick to be a minority. So, yeah, give me my flag back, because no, you're not like us. You want to be minority when convenient. Oh, woe is me. Meanwhile, the biggest real estate developers in New York with hundreds of billions of dollars, it's like, wait a minute. You ain't moving like a minority. Oh, trust me, I am. No. You can't be a minority when Candace Owens shows up. You can't say I'm a minority now. No. I need you to be a minority at the bank. I need you to be one there. If you're not a minority at the bank, I don't believe you. And this is where we at. Vivek Ramaswamy, you can't be a minority. You can't be. Kamala Harris sitting in the vice president, you sitting over here, even if you scam the billions, it's okay. Yeah, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So that's the only reason. That's the reason why it fits with us. Because when you check our paperwork, everything matches. These other folk, it's like, yeah, other than your point of origin as compared to Anglos, yeah, that's where the minority thing stops for you. So that's where they're at.
I'll end with this, just like you brought it with Ocean Ave, just being in New York in general and seeing Yiddish and Hebrew on ambulances and senior living homes is, if you don't see it, if you haven't seen it before, it's an eye-opening experience, because it is showing that difference between us, our minority, and their so-called minority.
Absolutely. When you start comparing the socioeconomics, when you start comparing the neighborhoods, hell yeah, it's a big difference. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me see if we can get, got a few folk here on Zoom right here. So Harag, just stick around here for a moment. Let me see if we can get Alistair up here on Zoom for me right quick. We'll try to get Alistair up here. Alistair may have the Zimbabwe broadband going, so we'll give Alistair about 5 seconds to go ahead and get it together. Or we're going to have to go ahead and move on here. Alistair, make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on. I'll give you 3 seconds to get that straightened out, and I'm going to move on. Okay. Alistair, I can give you 2 more seconds to go ahead and get that taken care of, then I got to move on.
Can you hear me?
All right, Alistair, what's on your mind?
Yes, what's going on, Brother Jason? I hope you're doing all right. And I just want to say, first, really good topic. And second, Candace Owens and a lot of these so-called gropers should be thanking Minister Louis Farrakhan. He's been saying this for the last 40 years.
No, Candace Owens played dumb about that. I played it already. Candace
she played dumb
about that. I didn't know nothing. Okay, she was all over Fox News talking about Farrakhan when folks brought up and said, by the way, Farrakhan been saying this for decades. I don't really know anything about Farrakhan. So Candace Owens is an outright liar. She is not confused, folks. She just thinks she's slick. She's just an outright liar.
Yeah, but they're labeling her as another Minister Louis Farrakhan. They said she's been using a lot of Farrakhan talking points and everything else. Now, speaking of her, I wonder if she's going to have the courage and the balls to interview Minister Louis Farrakhan or
no,
brother Wesley Muhammad.
No.
Or any brother minister of the Nation of Islam.
No, she's not going to talk to any of them because the conversation is very quickly going to turn to white supremacy. Okay. They're not going to sit there and talk to her about Jewish folk for an hour. She'll ask that question, but they're going to put it in the context of white supremacy. And she's already made it clear for a decade, all these points that she's been standing on, and now she has to stand on them because she can't come back to black society. When they start turning the lens to white supremacy, she's either going to have to agree with them or she's going to have to try to dispute them, in which case they're just going to decapitate her. You know that. She's not going to make it 5 seconds into that. No. So, brother, she would be stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. She will immediately lose her audience because the audience knows that she's lying and they know that they're all white supremacists. So if her program becomes a platform for debunking white supremacy, it's going to go bad. When he says something and she can't debunk it, and you're all just going to have to admit that you're about white supremacy, she can't afford for that conversation to be platformed there. That's a no-win situation.
That's a very good point. Very good point. It is a no-win situation for her because she's basically, her platform is to basically reach out, to these white supremacists and everything. That's what Kanye West was trying to do in some ways.
Right. And you get somebody up there who just straight decapitates it and debunks it point after point. It's like, oh, hell, this didn't turn very fun. So how do you win that situation when it debunks everything y'all said? How do you win? You can't.
You can't. Exactly. Yeah. One other thing, I was pointing out, too, is that a lot of these Zionists, like the Ben Shapiro's, he got all of this type of teachings, from people like David Horowitz, and how these folks, basically at one point, it never helped us in the civil rights movement and on until it was convenient back in the 1960s and everything. And they used their status, and used a lot of Dr. Martin Luther King's points, to their advantage and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a different time back then. You were dealing with a different group of people. The civil rights generation was a different group of people from us. A lot of these people had an opportunity to make good on these things. And don't get me wrong, there were some very helpful Jewish people along the way there as well. I'm not going to sit up here and dismiss that. Absolutely, there were. Absolutely. However, that does not change the presence of a Ben Shapiro today. I'm not talking about what happened 60 years ago. Right. I'm talking about what's happening over here, right now, right in front of us. And I'm looking at the response we're getting today. There are no black people targeting Jewish children. There are no black people going to the Supreme Court targeting Jewish children. There are no black YouTubers laughing and mocking the killing of Jewish kids. That's not happening. And if you want to convince us that you're with us, When Ben Shapiro, literally Daily Wire, was saying that they were making like $200 million a year or something like that. You got outlets making hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of demonizing black people and celebrating the murder of any black person in America, celebrating the murder and rationalizing it. And all of a sudden, we don't really have any Jewish support on pushing back against that. So, yeah, even if I give you full faith and credit for the 1950s to the 1960s, in the 2020s, folks is AWOL. Right. So dealing with where we are right now, that's where I'm at. I'm right here with it, in the here and now.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things, that I'm very disappointed, that some of these Negro civil rights leaders, don't have the courage to push back against, some of the
but they're paid,
race, the anti-black.
I need you all to understand that in New York City, particularly, man, all these old niggas are on the payroll.
And deal with it, nigga.
I need y'all to understand that is a thing in New York. That is a thing in LA. That is a thing now in Atlanta and DC. Old niggas on the payroll. They've been on the payroll for decades.
Especially in the Congressional Black Caucus and everything else. They don't serve the black community. Most of their money they're getting all that money, through a bunch of Israeli
Jesse Jackson. If y'all want to know why he didn't run for president again. I mean, we already covered this. I'm not making this up, folks. We already covered this on the program. This is public knowledge. This is public record. This is not a secret. Jesse Jackson got paid. They funded him to, okay, here, go start your little rainbow coalition and all this old stuff right here and leave this politics thing alone. And that's exactly what happened.
And also, by the way, too, Jesse, why don't you change the census? Instead of calling us Black Americans, call us African Americans.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of them on the payroll. After Dr. King got killed, pretty much everybody from that circle was on the payroll.
Yeah.
And that's what really happened.
And that's why the black communities, been decimated and everything else because of that.
But that's why things have also changed, because they ain't been able to, they ain't passed the bag like they used to, or the folks they passed it to are incompetent operatives. So back in the broadcast, television, and radio days, when you only had a few outlets to listen to, they could buy off enough people. They could buy off the local clergy, because where people gathered to get information was limited. Now that it's so broad, you're not able to really do that. It's not feasible. And the ones they have paid are irrelevant or incompetent. I don't know what Van Jones got $100 million for. What I do know is that it hasn't done Jeff Bezos, as far as I can tell, one bit of good. So unless Van Jones has pictures of Bezos with a goat or something, I can't imagine what that money did any good for. He certainly hasn't influenced black society in any degree. So I don't know what you're paying these people for. I don't know why you paid him. I do know that whatever you paid him for, it didn't work. If he was supposed to do something to influence us with that $100 million, I don't know why you paid him. I do know that it didn't work. And all the rest of them, DeRay McKesson and all the rest of those people, they paid them. Simone Sanders, y'all paid them. It didn't do anything.
Yep. And they're doing the same thing to the black church too, brother. Because when I heard about the story of all these pastors going to Israel and everything else.
Oh, yeah, they're still putting money behind it. They're putting money behind that. Whoever that new guy is down there in Atlanta, keep y'all's eye on him. Yes. I'm pretty sure he on the payroll too. Keep your eye on him. Every time we start talking about black empowerment, somebody keeps running up trying to tell us about the real issue is religion. The real issue is the next world. The real issue is righteous. The real issue is pie in the sky and heaven. And the real issue is being groovy on Jesus. Every time we start solidifying around black power, somebody comes up and tells us throw open the doors of the church. And the church that they're throwing open the doors to isn't saying a word about black empowerment.
Dope.
So couldn't help but notice that. So every time we see this kind of stuff right here, all I can tell y'all is Drewski was right. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, thank goodness for Drewski for pointing that out and everything, and got a lot of them pastors all pissed off and everything, which is a good thing he's doing that. Really. But thank you, Brother Jason, for this topic.
Thank you for giving us a call here tonight. Let me see if I can get Harag up here on Zoom for me here right quick. Yeah, folks, every time we start getting black empowerment popping, somebody starts telling you the real issue is religion. So, all right, go ahead and unmute yourself, Harag. Lower left-hand corner, microphone button.
Okay, I'm here with you, Jason.
All right, what's on your mind?
To listen to you every week. I just wanted to say that they're definitely under pressure, and they're definitely getting some kind of a wake-up call, because I've noticed that whenever I watch YouTube, there's only two commercials I see. It's either going to be a GLP-1 weight loss tablet drug, or it's going to be an Israeli ad talking about that kid that was supposedly killed, but not killed because they found him later. But they must be under some pressure to place ads out. And I mean, I see it almost every YouTube video I watch.
Well, definitely the bag has been passed. They're saturating things. They're trying everything. They're trying everything but something smart. The word has gotten out that you just bought off a bunch of people. You bought off a bunch of YouTubers, social media, quote, influencers. And the real problem is your cover is blown. Everyone knows it, so they're looking for it now. If somebody comes out caping real hard for you, it's like everybody's like, okay, the check must have cleared the bank. The check must have cleared. So it's become a damning commentary. The other issue is you're not doing yourself any favors by trying to create friendly avenues. If you want to get your message out there, you're going to have to go to the heart of the problem. You're going to have to go to the Fuenteses and the Candace Owenses and the Tucker Carlsons. No, you're going to have to go there. You're going to have to go to the Young Turks. You're going to have to go to these places that y'all are talking about. You're not going to turn on your money hose, buy $100 million in ads, and reverse the direction that this conversation is going in, which is what they're currently trying. This is not a Taylor Swift concert. You're not going to just buy a bunch of ads and flyers and then everybody's on your side. That's not the way it's going to work. You're not going to make some movies where you all have rigged the script. You're not going to do that. You're not going to have a get together or a cookout. You're not going to rig the television shows with another script of it. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's all not only is it on the way to failing, it's already failed.
Yeah, but I was thinking it's the first time in my life I've ever seen a race of people take out ads to justify themselves. Like, I wonder, what if back in the 80s and 70s we could have taken out ads to justify our actions, or Mexicans, how they have to cross the border. But this is the first time I've ever seen a race take out ads to justify their bad actions.
Well, it's too blatant. You can't do that. Because here's the issue. The issue is we're not all Jewish. The reason that wouldn't work for you is because everybody's not black. Everybody's not Latino. Well, everybody's not Jewish. And if they have a problem with what you're doing, not with you, but what you're doing, that ad isn't actually fixing the issue. Because that ad isn't saying, by the way, I'm going to stop doing this stuff y'all got a problem with. It's, hey, it's perfectly fine for me to do stuff got a problem. It's like, okay, are you listening? Is he listening to us? Because, yeah, he just seems kind of oblivious to it. And that's what I'm saying. You can become so tunnel vision that you're just stuck saying, I'm right no matter what. And if I repeat it long enough, everybody will get on board with it. And that's not the way it's going to work. Now, what is going to happen is people are going to say, okay, he's not listening to us when we tell him we don't like what he's doing. So why don't we get some legislation that doesn't require him to listen? And at that point right there, you'd be squilling and yelling, but you had different options. You were just too boneheaded and hard-headed to do what you needed to do. But this is not a public relations problem as far as you're not promoted enough. Oh, well, people just don't hear what we're saying enough. Well, if we just buy more ads, more people will hear what we're saying. It's like, no, you're not addressing what they talked about. And every time they buy ads, they're just giving more folk content. Oh, take a look at these ads they bought. That's all that's happening now is they become the new content. Whoever's in charge of their media strategy should have been fired years ago. I'm sorry, Barry Weiss. What? So, just whoever's doing this is stupid. It's silly. This is what you
Always
do
a
if you want to
pleasure.
lose.
Always a pleasure. I'm going to back out now.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. This is what you do when you want to lose. This is not what you do when you want to win. So I have advised them, but yeah, this is not what you do when you want to win. This is what you do when you want to lose. You play tone deaf. You tell everybody, y'all just love it when I do this terrible stuff over here. Oh, well, don't worry. If I do it, it must be the right thing. That's not the way that works. All right, over here on Zoom, I got Lawrence on Zoom. Lawrence, make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on for me here. Don't worry, YouTube is not going to see you. The only person who needs to see you is me, just to make sure we don't have any trolling issues. So, Lawrence, I can give you 5 seconds. Make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on. Lawrence, I can give you 3 more seconds. Make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on. Lawrence has decided he doesn't want to turn his camera on, so Lawrence is not going to be here. All right. Lawrence will not be joining us for the rest of his life. Yeah, folks, like I say, the real issue here is that a lot of people have been thinking that they were going to practice white supremacy on the low and on the backhand side and whatnot, and now they're screaming and copping pleas, and they need us is what they need, folks. They need us. They need us for backup. We are the people who set the tone of American culture. We are the people who set the soundtrack of American culture. You're not going to make this thing pop off, and you're not going to reverse this thing unless we sign off on it. And so long as you refuse to purge your ranks of the obvious Jewish white supremacists that you have amongst you, there's nothing to talk about. You all got unfinished business playing dumb about this. If you write an article about Ben Shapiro or Dave Rubin, that article needs to start with about, by the way, these are 2 bigoted white supremacists who've been promoting white supremacy and anti-black hatred and racism for years. That's how your article needs to start. Not it's some people say, not it's some people's perspective. They have promoted vicious anti-black racism and bigotry now for years. If you do not make that very, very clear in that context, then we got nothing to talk about and you're not going anywhere. We have nothing to discuss at that point. Right now, you need some friends. You need some backup. You all don't know how to approach this thing. There's not any sympathy going on. You can go buy all the ads you want to. You can get YouTube to boost you in the algorithm. Every time people see you, they despise you. Raising your profile isn't saturating the airwaves with your vision. It's reminding people that they can't get away from you. And every time they see you, oh yeah, that reminds me why I don't like you. That's what it becomes. So do not expect their fortunes to change anytime soon. The Jewish white supremacists thought that they were going to be sneaky and slick and sly and devious and raise their profiles and their part in the rankings. And they woke up one day and realized, I'll be damned. You're still in whiteness. You're just at the bottom of the ladder. They haven't revoked your white cards just yet, but you're at the bottom of the ladder. White supremacy didn't work out any better for you than it did for Dinesh D'Souza, and Vivek Ramaswamy is not working out any better for them. And here's where the real dangerous part comes in. And oh yeah, by the way, got to remind you all, here's where the real perilous part comes in. Because you see, most Jewish people already marry outside of their ethnic group. Already. Most Jewish people want to identify as Anglos already. And the Anglos already know this. So you see, the more they try to push that hard line, you're not going to make the rest of the population want to be Jewish. The rest of the population is going to dig in their heels. And then you're just going to have a bunch of people who just mass defect. Because what you trying to push ain't working. So you're actually going to exacerbate the issue. When Anglo society digs in their heels, you're not going to end up with a bunch of Jewish people who become more militant. You're going to end up with a bunch of Jewish people who are like, hey, man, that fight is already lost. We just need to assimilate with the rest of these folks over here, man, because this fight ain't worth it. They're going to look at New York, and then they're going to look at Tel Aviv and be like, I ain't left nothing in Tel Aviv. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, I want New York. I want LA. I want Miami. It's going to be that. It's going to be that. Because it already is. It already is. I mean, they'll wave at y'all at the bar mitzvah. They'll wave at you there, but as far as where they're going to dig in their flag and whatnot, it's like, it's... I've been to Israel a couple of times. It's cool. I mean, it ain't Tribeca. It's cool though. But what you're most likely going to end up with is a lot of Jewish people who are like, yeah, this isn't a fight worth having. Because that's what history has shown you. History has shown that. So keep pushing that if you want to. It's a dead end, but keep pushing it if you think you're going to make that work. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. Click that red subscribe button. Click that notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work. That's blackchannelfilms.com, blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.